Hey everybody, it's Coach Bailey Cooper, and thanks for pressing that play button. Welcome back to another edition of Super Sales Training. And on this video, I'm going to sell you on the benefits of writing a script, teach you step by step how to write your script, and how to master the delivery of each script. Now, it's been said that when you wing it, you end up with wing it results. So why do so many sales representatives out there walk into a sales presentation without a prepared script? Well, I can't answer that, but what I can tell you is my experience with training and managing hundreds of sales and marketing agents, and the biggest resistance that I've seen is that they all have in common of not being comfortable learning and using a prepared script. And I've heard everything from, I don't want to sound like a robot. What is the result of this script? If I learn this script and use this script, I think I'm going to sound too salesy. If I use this script, it'll just sound too scripted. And the reality is that these statements are just excuses for people resisting something that they either haven't tried or haven't had success with, which it's completely natural because our brains are wired to resist something that we haven't proven works for us. Therefore, we come up with numerous reasons not to sell from a script. So my goal for you is that you'll eliminate this same resistance to sales scripting and take advantage of one of the most profitable ideas that I've ever learned in sales. This concept has helped me quadruple my income in the last 12 months, and I want to share it with you. So one of the benefits of selling from a script is that you will come across as an expert in your field to your prospect. And nobody likes to buy from somebody that's not an expert in their field. And when you deliver your information about your product or service in a way that shows that you're prepared and that you sound confident in what you're saying and that you actually believe that you can help them, that comes across as very attractive. And the result of confidence comes as the result of consistently doing something over and over, much like riding a bike. So a second benefit to sales scripting is that you will have a baseline to measure your progress and work from. A baseline script is something that you're currently saying in your presentations. Now, there are numerous sales scripting techniques, and using a baseline script is one. I want to give you three more: reverse engineering, persuasion engineering, and borrowing other people's scripts. Reverse engineer refers to your overall script. Begin with the end in mind. From that place, backtrack what needs to be in the script in order to move the prospect to action. Next is persuasion engineer. When you're persuasion engineering a mini script, consider the following questions. Is this mini script in the right sequence? Should this mini script be in the script in the first place? Is there any way I can say the mini script more persuasively? And the last sales scripting technique I want to teach you guys is borrowing other people's scripts. Human beings respond in predictable ways, and you can use the same scripts that other people in your industry use and produce similar results. Now, not all scripts work for all people. For example, if you're a more passive person and you use a script written by somebody who has a dominant personality, then that may not work for you. So let's talk about writing a script. So there's several steps in this sequence to writing a script. 1, pick the script that you want to write. 2, write out your 5 laundry lists. 3, identify your sales model. 4, create the outline. 5, write the script section by section. 6, persuasion engineer. 7, revise, improve, and update. And this content came from Eric Lofholm International, and I strongly suggest his program. And in the link below, I'll send you a link for a free 30-minute phone call with Eric to talk about his programs, and a link to download his book, The System, where you can find much of this information. So picking a script that you want to write. Now, there's several different types of sales scripts, and once you identify the scripts that you need, work on that script until you've completed it. Now, this idea was something that kind of caught me off guard, is because I got a little overwhelmed at all the different scripts that I needed to complete, and I worked on them all at the same time, and it really slowed down my progress. So pick one script at a time that you need to complete and complete that, then move on to the next. So here's a few scripts that I currently use. Appointment setting, email confirmation, your main presentation, objection handling, follow-ups, referrals, recruiting, public speaking, conference calls, and webinars. Now imagine that the scripts that you need to write are now done. How much more would you expect to make in the 12 months ahead? Now, as I told you prior, that I've made 4 times the income since before I had these scripts. So for me, now that these scripts are done, I'm able to use them for the rest of my life. And I estimate that I will be selling for at least another 40 years. So earning an additional 3 times what I made prior to having these scripts means that these scripts will help me make an extra $6 million for the rest of my life. Now that you've identified the scripts that you need to write, the next step is to write your 5 laundry lists. So we're not writing the script yet, we're just identifying the ingredients of the script. And the 5 laundry lists are stories, probing questions, offers, objections, and benefits. Now the key to this exercise is to try and write 7 to 10 per each section, then move on to the next. Focus on completion rather than perfection. This is an exercise that I consistently work on for at least 1 hour per week. I have a Google Docs folder titled Scripts, and within that folder is each section. And when I go back each week, I go in there, and where I spend the most time is on stories. So every time I make a sale, or whether I don't make a sale, depending on the circumstance, I go to my stories document and I tell that customer's story. And I like to list important facts about them and their family, what objections that they expressed that I was able to overcome, which benefits interested them the most and helped me persuade them to move forward. And I also write stories of clients that chose not to buy if they later regretted it. Stories are an absolutely powerful tool in sales because they help move people emotionally. Now, stories act as invisible selling in a way because they suspend time. Stories can increase rapport with a prospect, and they can also be humorous, which does the same. So you can use stories in numerous places in your presentations, and I just suggest not to use too many. Pick 4 or 5 stories to tell over and over and over, and know what order you're going to tell them. And there's going to be a story you're going to want to tell for every single objection that comes up. And so when you set the appointment, you can tell a story. During the close, you can tell a story. When you're establishing rapport with a prospect, you can tell a story, maybe a humorous story. And for each objection that comes up, you're going to want to have a story that you can use where a prospect had that same objection and decided to move forward with you. When asking for referrals, you're going to want to use stories. And when you share the benefits of your product or service, that's the reason why in my stories document, I want to list which benefits were so attractive to different prospects. And this is going to change. And what I may find is that what I thought which benefits would influence the prospect may be completely different. And so this is what you're going to want to identify. And the different stories that you're going to want to tell is every time I go into a presentation, in this order, I tell the company story, and I usually tell my story and why I was so attractive to come on board with this company. I tell the stories of my satisfied clients, and again, the clients that decided not to move forward and then later regretted it and became a client. So if you haven't already done this, just get a piece of paper and write out a list of 20 of your most satisfied customers. Where I began is I went online and I captured my reviews, and I just listed the customer and the product or service that they bought, and I pasted in there their review. And this is powerful is because you can start to form testimonies, and you can use this in email marketing and place them on your website as well. Now the next section in your laundry list is probing questions. The easiest way to persuade or influence somebody is to find out what they want and give it to them. Now, the easiest way to find out what somebody wants is by asking questions. So, script out a list of questions that help lead and guide the prospect to do business with you. When people list objections, there's really two types of objections. There's perceived objections, and then there's the core of it, which is the actual objection. So you want to identify powerful, persuasive probing questions that can ask the prospect to truly identify their needs. So one question you can ask is, what is your true need in regards to this reason that you had me come out here today? And let's use my last sales career in alarm sales. And what is your family's true need in regards to a home security system? Because in a lot of presentations that I delivered, typically people that had had a home break-in in the past would not share that information during the presentation unless asked. So when I ask a question like that, then they may tell me, hey, well, my sister was broken into over Christmas time, so my true need is to have a security system that if somebody ever broke into my house, the alarm will go off and I'll get a picture of the person that broke into my house. So in that circumstance, then I would tell them the benefits of having a camera system. Probing questions help you identify their points of pain, and it's been said that a satisfied man doesn't buy. So what you want to identify is, what are some areas in this prospect's mind that they're unsatisfied with? What's the real reason that you're out there today? And what need, want, or desire can your product or service solve? Here's a list of some sample questions you can ask. What is the most important thing, what is most important to you about blank? What's most important to you about using this in your business? If you could change anything about your current product or service that you have, for example, an alarm system, if you could change anything about your current alarm system, what would you change? Tell me more about that. So when you layer questions after the main question, what it does is it helps the prospect open up and get to the real core of their want, need, or desire. How quickly are you looking to move forward? For me to best help you, I need to ask you a few questions. Would that be okay? And I usually begin my list of probing questions when I identify their needs with that question. I usually have prepared questions I like to ask, and I get their permission to allow me to read from a script. And I just ask the same questions over and over and over, and I take notes. And what this does is it shows genuine interest in the prospect and me finding out what their real need is. And that works beautifully in most cases. Now, this is called pre-framing, and pre-framing is when you let the prospect know what's going to happen next, then ask your next questions. And sometimes before I move on to another question, I'll ask them, does that make sense? Just to make sure that they're staying with me. And after I pre-frame, I may ask a question like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to move forwards? What is your budget? What is most important to you about the security of your family and your house? What caused you to be interested in having me come out here today? And when you pre-frame and you let them know what's going to happen next, and then you ask these questions that get down to the core, you get them to be an active participant in the presentation. So when listing your probing questions, consider these types of questions and try and list 20, and then move on to the next section, which is the offer or the close. The close is where you ask the prospect for a commitment. And as my mentor Eric Lofholm says, the close is a natural conclusion to a well-delivered presentation. So once you've done the heavy lifting in the body of the presentation, where you identify the customer's needs and you share the benefits of your product, the next step is to lead and guide the prospect to doing business with you. Closing is not just at the very end of your presentation. We close all the time. So you can close the prospect in the beginning of the presentation. And how I do this is I share my agenda, and I say what I like to do now is tell you a little bit about myself and why I came to work with this company, ask you a few questions, and get to know you a little bit better and help identify your needs, share the benefits of my product or service, and if it's okay with you, make my recommendation. So in a sense, I'm closing them on making my recommendation, and I'm cornering myself as an expert. And when they agree to this, in a sense, they're agreeing to me closing them. When I close my kids, I may sell them on the benefits of eating their vegetables. That, hey, if it's okay with you guys, you can have ice cream tonight, and after you finish your vegetables. How does that sound? And they get really excited about it, and they eat down their vegetables, and then they get their scoops of ice cream. I close myself on doing the laundry and doing the dishes and cleaning up and making the bed, because I want my wife to come home from work and be happy. And a happy wife is a happy life. So I consistently do things that maybe I don't want to do, but the benefits of doing that is how I close myself. And we can do the same thing with the prospect. So when you're writing your closing and your offer, there's three things that you want to identify. You want to identify your transition to the close, the body of the close, and the final close. Now, the transition of the close is just simply a few sentences where you're letting the prospect know that you're going to be asking for the order. And it sounds something like this. What I'd like to do now is share with you what it looks like for clients to do business with me. And then in the body of the close, you're just going to simply explain your offer. Here's some examples of some things that you can share in the offer. You want to identify the price, the guarantee or warranty, what's included, any bonuses, the length of the agreement, the method of payment, and payment terms. Some ways that help me close prospects on solar is just helping them identify the next steps after they decide to do business with me. And I think when we decide to do business, we kind of want to get a timetable on, for example, when you buy a new car. They may close you on, great, so this is what it looks like. We're going to sign some paperwork, you're going to wait in the lobby, and then you're going to meet with the financing officer. And what they're going to do after that is they're going to inspect the vehicle, gas it up, make sure that you get a good wash, and tomorrow morning you can come back and pick up the car. And selling a product or service for someone's home, like solar, it's 2 months before they actually get their project completed. So I want to let them know on the next steps. So what we're going to do is we're going to run credit, and then we're going to have some loan documents to get you to authorize. And I try not to use the word sign or signature. There's a few buzzwords that sometimes ring bells and people have resistance to. So you can use commitment, authorization, and then the warranty is the real reason why a lot of people end up doing business with me, is because I layer all the different warranties in the body of the close, and I break down their commitment into a monthly payment. And 9 times out of 10, what it looks like is if they're paying $150 a month currently for their energy bill, going solar, they can end up getting the system on their house and decreasing their total out of pocket to $120 a month. So thus saving $30 a month. Now, the term of this is typically a 20-year commitment. But for the next 20 years, at the very least, they're going to save $30 per month. And a lot of people get really excited about that. So then after I'm done explaining the process of from signing the paperwork to the inspection of the house to having the solar installed and then having it connected to the grid, I just kind of break down the proposal so that I make sure they don't have any questions. A lot of time people will say okay to do something, but in the back of their mind, they may have resistance. So right here, what I want to do is I want to overcome any resistance that they have not verbalized so that they keep the sale, so that they don't back out. And there's typical objections that people have, and I usually just kind of get really clear on identifying all the aspects and make sure they don't have any questions. And the final close is just a few sentences when you ask for the order. The most important principle I want to teach you guys that I've learned the hard way is when asking for the order, you want to ask for the order and be silent. And when you ask for the order and you're silent, the prospect's going to do one of three things. They're going to say yes, they're going to say no, or they're going to verbalize an objection. So in scripting out your close, you're going to want to make a laundry list for the offer or the close. And your price, your guarantee, your length of contract, the incentive for people buying today, the methods of payment, the terms of that payment, the warranty, and the bonuses. Next, you want to put the components in order to create a closing outline, and then write a mini script for each section of the outline. Next, we're going to talk about objection handling. And objection handling, as my mentor Eric Lofholm said, is like mental chess. Part of chess is anticipating your opponent's next move. And it's not a competition, it's more like a game. So understanding the game that you're playing. It's also like a game of hot potato. In a game of hot potato, you pass the hot potato back and forth. So responding to an objection is like passing the hot potato. You respond to the objection, you pass the hot potato back to your prospect. Then they respond and pass the hot potato back to you. And then you either respond or you close them and pass the hot potato back to them. And it keeps going back and forth. So this is a form of negotiation. And oftentimes the true objection, as I previously stated, is non-stated. So they may say that they don't have enough time, but in reality they need to speak to their spouse. So there's typically 7 to 10 common objections in any industry. And this is great news for us because we can easily find out what those 7 to 10 common objections are and memorize those objections and list several, 15 to 20 different rebuttals for every single common objection so that we can be a force in the sales arena and not take no for an answer. And typically a prospect is going to say no to you in one way or another 5 times before they decide to move yes. And this is because as human beings, we're creatures of habit and we're just used to saying no. I mean, we're bombarded with, on average, 5,000 advertisements on a day-to-day basis. From opening up your smartphone and surfing the internet, to watching TV, to listening to the radio on your way to work, to seeing signs and billboards on the road, on cars, on people's shirts, and on the way home. And when we're in a sales presentation, the natural inclination for the prospect is like a boxing match. All day long, they're saying no to advertisements in their mind. And when you ask for the order and you're silent, their first instinct is to say no. So don't take offense to that. Just learn how to handle those objections. So in this exercise, you just want to list common objections in your industry. And the easiest way to do that is to just borrow it from someone else. It's pretty easy nowadays to Google just about anything. And if you don't have somebody, a top producer in your industry that you can talk to, then I would just recommend going to Google. Now I'll give you 5 real quick. I need to think about it. I don't have any money. I need to talk it over with my spouse. Can you just send me some information? And your price is too high. So identifying these objections would be the first step. The next is to have your rebuttals to these objections or your objection handling techniques. So it's important to understand why we get objections. And it's not always about you, though we may think it is. Mainly, the prospect doesn't have a need, or they're not interested, or they don't have any urgency to buy right now. Another reason is that they don't have money, or maybe they think they have the money but they really don't. Very highly unlikely, but this happens, is that the prospect doesn't like you. And this was something that I had to overcome, is that I would always think if they didn't buy from me, it's because they didn't like me. But in reality, they just fell into one of the other categories, and maybe I went there because I had a negative way of thinking. And this is a completely different topic, but it's important to overcome your self-image in sales to be successful. Another reason is that maybe the prospect is satisfied with their current situation or solution that they have right now. Maybe they have a pre-existing relationship with someone else in the industry and they just want a price, like a family member or a longtime friend that sells the same product or service as you. A lot of times prospects believe that their situation's about to change, like they think that they're going to sell their house in the next year, and that will often hold people back from moving forward. When in reality, they haven't even gotten a realtor, listed their house, or even looked at another house. So this may just be a front, these objections that they give you. So what you want to do is handle these objections in the proper way. And what you're going to want to do is identify this and list out these techniques. So there's 13 of them. 1, story. 2, question. 3, solve the problem. 4, isolate. 5, bring out the objection. 6, script. 7, investigate. 8, you want to handle the objection before it comes up. 9, share the benefits. 10, reduce the risk. 11, be unreasonable. 12, negotiate. 13, ask them what would need to happen. Now, oftentimes, if you just tell them a story, ask them a question, and isolate the objection, you can overcome it. And what that looks like is, Bob, thanks for sharing that objection. I completely understand how you feel. Now, let me tell you a story about my client, Susan. Susan had the exact same objection, that she didn't think she had enough money. And what I was able to do is ask her a few more questions. And what she really told me is that she was afraid to move forward because she had previously made an investment and she had gotten burned. And Susan told me that the only reason that she wanted to wait to move forward is that she needed to talk to her husband. And once she talked to her husband said that he trusted me and that the offer was good enough for him to decide to move forwards, and they are satisfied customers. And when you use objection handling techniques, you want to have different bullets for each one of these so that you can use different ones when you handle these objections. For further amplification on objection handling techniques, I would strongly encourage you to get a free copy of Eric Lofholm's book, The System, and he really breaks it down much more beautifully than I can. So what you want to do for this exercise is write a long list of common objections that come up in your industry, as many as you can, and every time you get a new objection, write it in there and think of multiple ways that you can respond to each objection. So I have a list of 20 common objections, and I have a minimum of 10 rebuttals to each objection. And the last part of your laundry list is writing out your benefits. And people buy benefits. They don't buy features. And that's a common mistake that sales reps make, is they sell the features rather than the benefits. So this is going to be where you build value in your presentation. And there's many different types of benefits. You've got tangible benefits, intangible benefits, the benefits of taking action, the consequences of not taking action, and most importantly, the benefit of the benefit. So your tangible benefits are benefits that produce definable results. Maybe your product helps them make more money. Maybe it helps them to decrease employee turnover. Maybe your product helps them to live healthier. Maybe it helps the prospect save money, and maybe it helps to save them time. So these are tangible benefits. Intangible benefits are benefits that you can't really measure. Maybe you're selling somebody on consulting them, and through them deciding to use you as their coach, they're going to get increased confidence, peace of mind, and they're going to learn the strategy to be a dominant force in their industry because of your coaching. Next, you want to identify the benefits of taking action, and this is going to be where the prospect is going to benefit by purchasing your product or service. And in a way, intangible benefits can lead that to it, but you want to clearly define, maybe if they take action today, they're going to save money on the product or service. Maybe there's a buy today offer. And next, you want to tell them the consequences of not taking action, that they're going to lose out on this great opportunity, for example. Another consequence of not taking action, if you're in the insurance industry, is that if they don't have life insurance and God forbid somebody dies, what would their family do? That's a really great close that insurance industries use all the time. And the most important is the benefit of the benefit. The benefit of the benefit is how the prospect benefits from the main benefits of your product or services. In many cases, this is the real reason that people buy. So for this exercise, you want to create a list of at least 10 benefits of your product or service. And there's many reasons why people buy, and you want to identify why people buy your product or service. And some of the reasons that people buy is that they want to look good in front of their peers. Maybe they want to please their spouse. Maybe they want to make more money, or they want to save time. People like peace of mind. People love to pursue a dream. People like to feel intelligent. People like to be entertained. And people buy because they actually have a need, or people buy because they're required to. So which benefits does your product or service help them achieve? Because people are not buying you. They're buying the benefits of your product or service. So the next step in the process of selling from a script is to identify your sales model. Then you want to create the outline. Next, you want to write the script section by section. And then you want to persuasion engineer your script. And lastly, revise, improve, and update. And on next week's portion of selling from a script, I want to teach you guys how to identify your sales model, create the outline, and write your script section by section. So until then, thank you so much for tuning in. Hit that like button, subscribe, and comment on your favorite ideas below. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.